an x-intercept, all that means is you're looking for the point where a graph crosses through the x-axis. So we need to remember that the horizontal axis is the x-axis. And if I have a graph that crosses through the x-axis at a specific point, that's the x-intercept. So right here, this point is my x-intercept. It's where it crosses through that x-axis. So in order to write the coordinates, we need to know that we always have to put an x value and a y value. Well, the x value is always going to be whatever that point is on the x-axis. It's always going to be, the x value. It's going to be 2 in this case. Right? The y value will 100% of the time always be 0, because when we're talking about an x-intercept, the y value, right, this is our y-axis, we haven't gone up at all, and we haven't gone down at all, right? Our y value is neither positive, nor is it negative, right? Our y value is just 0, right? So the y coordinate for our x-intercept is always just going to be 0. And when you write x-intercepts, you always need to write them in that form. A, where A is whatever number it crosses, and then comma 0. And it's always going to be in parentheses. No matter what, 100% of the time, it should always be in parentheses. When we look for a y-intercept, I'm going to draw a new graph here, this blue one here. When we talk about a y-intercept, the y-intercept is always the point at which it crosses through the y-axis. Right, so that point right there, and that's where it crosses through our y-axis. Now, when we write the ordered pair for a y-intercept, again, it's always going to be in parentheses. And our x value, which always has to come first, remember that all ordered pairs, right, any ordered pair, any point, always has to be x, comma, y. The x always comes first. Right? So our x value is always going to be 0, because we haven't gone to the right and we haven't gone to the left at all, right? Our y-intercept is right there on the y-axis where x is 0. Okay? And so then our y value is just whatever number we've gone up to. So in this case, right here, we've gone up to 4. So our y-intercept is 0, comma 4. So whenever you're writing the equation or the ordered pair for an x-intercept or a y-intercept, it's got to be the full point, not just a single number, right? We can't just say the y-intercept is 4 or the x-intercept is 2. Right? It's the point 2, 0, or it's the point 0, 4. Right? Always in that form, and the x-intercept will always have a y value of 0, and our y-intercept will always have an x value of 0. So we're going to go through and we're going to practice a few of these just to make sure we can get the hang of it. So if we're looking for our x-intercept, we have to remember that the x-intercept is where it crosses through the x-axis. So we have to look at that point right there and recognize that the form is always the x value, so 2 in this case, comma the y value, and the y value for an x-intercept is always 0 because we haven't gone up and we haven't gone down at all on the y-axis. Right, we're right there on that x-axis. Our y-intercept, we'll just look at where it crosses the y-axis. Right? It looks like it's crossing at -2. So our x value should be 0 always for a y-intercept because we haven't gone to the right or to the left. We're at the point where x is 0. And the y coordinate will just be -2. For our x-intercept on this one, we just need to find where it crosses through the x-axis. Looks like that's right there at 4. And that coordinate should always be in parentheses, the x value of 4 first and a y value of 0. Remembering that y value is always 0 for an x-intercept. And for a y-intercept, your x value is always going to be 0. And your y value is just where it crosses through that y-axis. In this case, 0, 2. And it's easy to remember that, right? For both of them, if you're looking for the x-intercept, it's the opposite one that's 0. The y is 0. And for the y-intercept, it's the opposite. It's always the x that's equal to 0. This one should be another pretty straightforward one. If we're looking at the x-intercept, we just look for where it crosses. Looks like that one crosses at 2. So it should be an x value of 2 with a y value of 0. For our y-intercept, we look for where it crosses our y-axis. Right here, well, that's halfway between 2 and 4. So that must be 3. So our y-intercept will be an x value of 0 with a y coordinate of 3. All right. This one is a little bit trickier because in this case, and for the first time, we actually have 2 places where our graph touches the x-axis. It touches it here at 2, but it also touches it over here at -2. That's okay. It's all right to have more than one x-intercept. You just have to write 2 points. So one of them will be the x value of -2 with a y value of 0, and the other one will be an x value of +2 with a y value also of 0, because again, when you're doing your x-intercept, the y value is always 0. For our y-intercept, which we'll only have one of when we're dealing with a function, looks like we cross through at -2. So we need to remember that the x value is 0 and the y value will just be -2. Here we have another tricky one. Let's do the y-intercept first, because it's pretty easy here. Our y-intercept, we're crossing through our y-axis right there at 2, which means it's an x value of 0 with a y value of 2. But for our x-intercept, we have something strange going on here, right? We've got this little open circle. An open circle means that that point is not included on the graph. So even though it looks like it's going to touch the x-axis there, that point is actually not there. So if we look all the way from the left, all the way down to the right, it doesn't actually ever cross through our x-axis at all. And when it gets to the end there and has that endpoint that's an open circle, we still don't have an x-intercept there. It gets as close as it possibly can to that point at 6, 0, but it never actually gets there. And so we can say there is no x-intercept this time. We'll do just a couple more. So for this one, if we look at our graph, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3 different x-intercepts. So we need to have 3 different ordered pairs. The first one, well, we're halfway between 0 and -2. So halfway between 0 and -2 should be -1. The x value goes first, always with a y value of 0. Our next one is over right between 2 and 4. That'd be 3. So 3, 0. And then the last one over here is a little bit trickier, right? We've got between 4 and 6 right here would be 5. So we're actually right there in the middle of 4 and 5, which would be 4.5. We can write that as 4.5, 0. And as for our y-intercept, we just need to look at where it crosses the y-axis. It looks like it's at -2, and remember that we start with an x value of 0 with a y value of -2. And this will be the last one that we do here. So it looks like we've got 2 x-intercepts. It doesn't cross through that x-axis anywhere else other than those 2 points. The first one, the x value is -4. So that'll be -4 with a y value of 0. And the second one is right there at the origin, right where our x-axis and our y-axis intersect. And so, well, at that point, the x value is 0, as is the y value. Right? So we're at the point 0, 0. And if we're looking at a y-intercept, well, our y-intercept, well, doesn't our graph crosses through the y-axis in the exact same place, right? We're still crossing at that same point, which was 0, 0. And that's okay, because for both of them, it meets the criteria for an x-intercept in that y has to be 0, but it makes the criteria for a y-intercept in that x has to be 0. So it's both an x-intercept and a y-intercept. So the basic idea here is look for when your graph crosses the x-axis to find an x-intercept, and recognize that for x-intercepts, y is always 0. And then for your y-intercept, look for where it crosses your y-axis, and remember that your x is always going to equal 0.